Hi there. Welcome. This is another weekly webinar from Keysoft Solutions, the continuation of our series that's designed to help people get onboarded with Keyscape LandCAD quickly and get up to speed within a month or so, get a good grasp on the basic capabilities of 4 of our major modules. This week we're going to be focusing again on the paving module. This is a very useful tool both for doing general quantity takeoffs of paved areas and also laying out complex paving patterns that would normally take manipulation of an AutoCAD hatch or possibly even laying out a pattern brick by brick manually. So today I'm going to go through the basics of this, and then we'll also touch on an introduction of how to create your own patterns as well. So as always, when I start a Keyscape drawing, I usually go to the Core tab, the Core ribbon, excuse me, and look at drawing setup. Let's just verify our units again, make sure we're set to feet or whatever we prefer to draw in. It's always a good idea just to kind of keep tabs on things. Today I have a basic house footprint. This is going to be kind of a residential scale demonstration, but it's applicable to any scale. Keyscape LandCAD is great from residential scale all the way up to large master plan communities, campus planning projects. There's a lot of applications, especially for this tool. One of the things I've used it for is calculating pervious and non-pervious areas for some permitting calculations you might need to do. Or looking at area of asphalt, area of concrete, or area of decking. Basically anything you can quantify with this tool. So let's look at the paving ribbon. I'm going to start from left to right, because that's kind of how the workflows usually work within Keyscape. So under the draw subcategory here on the left, we have polylines, we have boundary, we have construction lines, leaders, and specials. This is really just AutoCAD command shortcuts. So if you want to get to polyline quickly, if you want to determine a boundary quickly, it's just commonly used commands, so you're not always switching back to the AutoCAD home ribbon. Or if you use keyboard shortcuts or other toolbars, you might not need those necessarily. Specials is more of a block library of some patterns that come pre-packaged with Keyscape. You can also add to these libraries by adding blocks, but these are really just specific paving patterns that you might use for decorative purposes, but where the real power of the program comes in is these next 3 subcategories: the edging, the paving, and the pathways. So first, let's look at edging. If you're familiar with our plant module, SoftWorks, then you're going to see some similarities here, some automation similarities and some functionality that's the same. Let's work on this back porch. I want to create an edging around here, so I'm going to do an offset of this boundary, but first I want to make it a boundary. I'm going to do a p-edit. I'm going to do multiple, and I'm going to grab these 3 lines. I'm going to convert them into polylines. I'm going to join them. And I hit enter. And now I have 1 polyline. I'm going to offset that maybe a foot. I'm just using the offset command. Let's just do 1 foot. And let's say we want edging around that. We'd obviously want to be more specific, probably. If it's an 8-inch brick that we're using as an edging, maybe we'd want to do an 8-inch offset. There's some other workflows as well, but just to keep moving from left to right, I'm going to start with this edging. I hit the Add button, which gives us the dialog box. I can either select a select a polyline or select an existing paving area. I'll start with a polyline. Click on that one. Delete source object. That's up to you. Keysoft does save a copy of the construction line in a frozen layer. So this is up to you if you want to delete this original construction line. I'll hit no just for now. Let's pick a pattern for that edging here. And this is going to be, I'm just going to say a brick of some sort. So let's pick something like this, where we have a running bond and a header course. And click OK. Again, these are all customizable. I'm just going to work with the defaults to start with to show you the basic workflows. So this is in the appearance subcategory where I selected that pattern. This would be equivalent to picking a tree symbol. You're just picking the graphic, the way it looks, the geometry of it. The other area as I go down is specification. That's where we add data to the object. So appearance is geometry, line work, X, Y, Z information. Specification is manufacturer data, color, type, model number, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go to specification next. If I want to, I can always come back at a later time. I'm going to say it's brick. I don't have any manufacturers loaded in. We can always add those as we go. So maybe we have a new manufacturer called Brick Guy. Okay. I didn't give it enough information, but here we go. Brick Guy. I'm going to add that to the brick layer. Assign that, done. Now we've got Brick Guy. And we do the same thing. We can add products to that manufacturer. You can build out a preferred list of bricks or concrete unit pavers or asphalt specifications or anything you want here. Let's do a preview of this to give us an idea of what we're looking like. So it's laid out pretty well except for the corners. You see the corners have some overlaps here. If I zoom across to the other side, got some problems there. So let's hit enter and go back to the dialog box. The way the corners are handled are in the set dominance option. Here I can select how the corners are accomplished. You can do a mitered corner, you can have one edge preference over another. You can even go junction by junction and determine that. So let's pick this one here and we'll just apply it to all. Hit OK. Let's preview that. So that didn't really accomplish it. Let's go back. Let's set dominance. Let's do a mitered corner. Hit preview. So that gives us a nice clean corner. That works pretty well. We might want to, adjust the setting out point, or adjust the length of this, the width of this patio, so that we end in more of a finished mitered look here on the end. But those are all based on the dimensions that you lay this out. So you have to have some knowledge of the material you're working with. Let's hit OK. Just like when I'm labeling plants, I'm then prompted to place a label. I can do that now, or I can hit enter and skip this step. It's up to you. You can always come back and add the label later, but I'll go ahead and put it in now. I'll draw a leader from my object to my label. And now I have an estimated number of bricks it's going to take to accomplish this. Yeah, it's a combination of header course and this running bond. And it's got a description here. All these options are of what information to display is editable, and I'll get to that in a moment. I will go ahead and insert a default schedule and just call it whatever you want to, paving schedule. And I'll just put this off to the side. This is just to demonstrate that it updates as we go and keeps tabs on what keyscape objects are in the drawing. The next thing I want to do is add the paving inside of this area. So I want to send this, the draw order, send this to the back. so I can see my construction lines again. So I'm going to do a paving area inside of this edging. I'm going to go to this next tool to the right, Paving, Add. Here I can select an area based on a closed polyline, or I can select from boundary. So the polyline I have drawn is only a three-sided. It's not a closed rectangle, it's just a polyline that's open on one side. But I do have the edge of the house here. I can use that as a boundary, or I could go back and I could edit that polyline. I'll just use a from boundary command because I know that I've used good drafting practices. I've used snaps to tie my line work into the house. So let's just select this point inside. It found that area. It's almost 200 square feet. Again, the next area is appearance. That's how we set the pattern. That's how we set the way this is going to look, whether it's a brick pattern. So here we have running bond, stacked. You click on these things, you get a little preview of what that might look like. Here we go, some herringbone. We also have this drop down here. So right now we're just dealing with blocks, which are equivalent to bricks. Anything that's kind of a uniform unit. Continuous you would use if you don't want a pattern, so that would say be a concrete path or an asphalt area. You'd use a continuous surface. Flag is some larger tile work kind of pavers. And then patterns, where things get really interesting. You can define complex patterns that have multiple block sizes within them. There are some defaults you can use here that come packaged with Keyscape, but the real power comes when you start creating your own. For example, here's a Unilock Antara pattern E. You can create those based on your preferred paving patterns, things you might use most often. So we'll get to that a little bit later, but right now I'm just going to stick with a brick pattern. Let's do just a regular running bond. We're going to stick with this 200 by 100 millimeter brick. These are metric, but you can always create your own that are more of a standard US nominal brick size as you need. So let's hit OK. We can add some spec to that as well. So again, we can have type, we can have manufacturer, we can fill out the rest of this information if we need it. We can even add information about joint types and gradients, a lot of options here. Let's preview that. So that looks pretty good, but we can see that we're probably going to want to set these coursing out from this edge here. We probably don't want to end on a half brick at that point. So let's hit enter to go back to the dialog. I'm going to do a setting out point, this button here. I'm going to pick the pattern start point. So I pick that, and I'm going to turn my snaps on. I want to just start in that corner. I want the angle to maintain 0. This is an orthogonal drawing, so if it wasn't orthogonally drawn, you could pick an angle to change that coursing. I hit OK. I hit preview, and now we're starting with we have a full brick course along the top there. We're starting with a half brick, and that's fine. Let's hit enter. Let's hit OK. And again, if we want to, we can place our label. We can place a label. And great. Now we've added that new pattern, and we've updated our schedule here. Let's quickly go through the last paving layout tool, which is path. I'm going to go up to the front of the house here where I have this curved walkway. And I've laid out a few important features here. It's important, I think, to lay out your pathways based on a center line and then offset from that. That means that you're always going to have a uniform width, regardless of how serpentine or how angled or however you lay out the pathway. So what I did is I established a polyline here. I I have a radius that I've defined, and then I did a 2-foot offset on either side to establish the boundaries of this walkway. If I click on the boundary, you can say that I've made it a closed polyline. That way we know where to stop the pattern. So basically, when I go to add a path, I have a couple options. First, I select the boundary, the area that is going to be filled with our paving of choice. So select area, click the outer boundary. Again, you have this dialog box. You can make the choice if you want to delete or not. Then you go to select length, and that's going to be that center line. That's how it knows to curve the pattern as it comes around towards the house. Then it's just like the other two tools. I'm going to pick a pattern, and let's use that same paving. And let's do this header course. That might be neat. Hit OK. I can add specification to that as I see fit. Right now, I'll just skip that. Let's preview and see what happens. So it filled the area completely with bricks, and it curved it according to that center line. It's critical that you draw it in this way so that it knows how to course around this corner. You can see that between the bricks we have kind of this wedge-shaped void where you would have your grout or your sand fill or whatever. Hit OK. Hit OK. And then we can place a label if we need to. So great. Now that's added another item to our schedule. We have paving, edging, and paths. The next thing I want to go through as I move from left to right through the workflow is how to manipulate how these labels look. This is just like in the plant module SOLIDWORKS. I can modify a style. I can change the information that shows up in that label. So right now it's showing number of bricks, a description, and then depending on what type of paving pattern it is, it's giving me some different information, whether it's linear feet or square feet. But say I want to add another category, I can always do that here. So let's say that maybe we don't want to have the estimated number of bricks shown on here. It might be good for quantifying some cost estimates or something like that, but it is just an estimate, and you probably don't want to communicate that to the installer because you want them to, it's more of a performance specification than an exact quantification that you want to convey in your documentation. So let's delete that out. Hit yes, and let's hit apply. Close, and there's left that out. So we still need to shift everything up a bit to avoid that gap at the top. That can easily be done back here in Modify Styles. We just move things up using the arrows. Hit apply. So you can also, if you want a deeper dive into how to set up these styles, check out some of our other videos that are specific about this. You can change the way things are colored, the arrowheads, the default cell or default text height, text styles, other things like that. And you can save these to defaults so you can share them between different drawings. Let's close that. Same thing goes with the schedule. If I go to this next subgroup schedule, I can go modify style there, and I can change what information is shown in my paving schedule. So right now it's showing description, number, manufacturer, all this good information. You can edit that as need be, move these around, delete them, go up here to paving spec. You can add in other information that's available in this module. Where things get powerful, again, would be being able to export this into Excel using these tools. You do more analysis there. Maybe you need to add cost to that. You can export to Excel, add costs based on these square footages and other takeoffs. Find objects, that just helps you find things in a large drawing. If I go find and select all, it's saying these are the 3 things I have specified. If I need to zoom to that, I can hit find. It's going to zoom right to that item. Again, more useful in a larger project. Database Manager is a useful tool for, again, editing your types of material, adding manufacturer data there. And the other tool under this drop-down is Pattern Manager. And that's what we're going to get to next, is how to quickly set up some new patterns. Maybe they're based on feet or inches. I'm going to show you how to accomplish that in the next step. The last thing I want to show in this drawing before I move over to the next drawing is the clipping tool. This is useful if you are, so you have a large drawing, you have a lot of paving areas, and the performance of your drawing is starting to decrease, or you really only need to show a section of a pattern to get the point across to your contractor. You can create a clipping boundary. So let's say we want a circular clipping boundary. I'm just going to draw a circle here, or you can use any geometry you want, polylines or circles or rectangles. I'm going to create a clip. I'm going to select a polyline or circle to create the boundary from. And then I'm going to apply that clip to this pattern. Again, apply clip. So now we've limited the visibility of that pattern. So maybe you only want to show this on a detail sheet. You probably don't want to show this on your layout sheet that might be at 100 scale. You only want to show this on maybe a 10 scale sheet or your separate detail sheet. You can also move these clip boundaries around. So maybe this area is more important to show the intersection with the drive here. You can move these clip boundaries around. And the last thing I want to do is, I kind of forgot about this. Let's go ahead and add a continuous surface just to demonstrate how you might use this tool. To lay out or get takeoffs for just regular paved areas. We'll go ahead and get rid of that clipping area. So say I just want to say that, hey, this driveway is made of concrete. It's this many square feet. And I want to automatically create a item in the schedule for me so I can quantify that cost. And it's also going to adjust as I change the shape. It's going to dynamically update those quantities for me. So again, this would be a paving area. I go to add, I go to select area or from boundary. This isn't closed, so I'm just going to use from boundary and click within here. Pattern options. This is going to be continuous, so there's no pattern. I'm going to add a description here, so maybe it's just a concrete drive. You can add whatever info you want here. Maybe it's 8-inch depth. And you can add as much information as you see fit. Hit OK. Again, we can place a label, place a leader if we'd like. We've now added that up here. It's under concrete drive there. We've got the area takeoff and some notes I've added. We can also, let me send this to back. So again, it's just a useful takeoff tool. However you want to use it, however much detail, however little detail you want to add to it, it's just a great automated takeoff tool. Let's switch over to this other drawing I've set up. This drawing is where I'm building out some paving patterns. So I started with this unit here, and I wanted to make a pattern out of it. We need to define that in our pattern manager here. So let's just double click on this real quick. You can see this is a paving area just like we were using before. If I go to pattern manager, I go to the pattern pull down, scroll down, this one's called InQ Test 01, and that was created from this geometry on the side, and it tiled that for me. So let's create another one down here. I've got another pattern I created. Again, pattern manager, pattern. Let's do a new one. I want to select that from what I've drawn on screen. But before I do that, the one key thing here is to make sure that we're in the right drawing units. So Keyscape is a native meters program, so I want to make sure we're working in meters. Right now we're in feet, and so to easily rescale, I'm going to do drawing rescale to meters and do a rescale. Hit OK. Great. So now this pattern that I had drawn in feet is now drawn to scale in meters. So I can now use this to create my pattern. Pattern manager, pattern pull down, new paving area, select. I'm going to select all these blocks. And it's important to note here, these are all closed polylines. They're all drawn with the rectangle command. I think the large block is 1 by 1 or 1 foot by 1 foot. This one's 1 foot by ½ foot, and these small squares are ½ foot by ½ foot. Again, these can be whatever you want to. You can get that from manufacturer data sheet, or you can make it up on your own. So I selected my objects there, hit enter. I select the pattern origin, which is probably the corner here. The column offset is going to be the width of the pattern, and the row offset is going to be the height of the pattern. Let's call this InQ002, just for now. Finish. Great. So now I have another pattern in my database. So I go to, let's say, I go to modify this paving area. And I want to switch the pattern from InQ01, which was the one up here, to InQ02, which is down there. Go to pattern options, click O2, click OK, click OK. Now it's updated very quickly for me. I didn't have to redraw, spend a lot of time offsetting and copying or using the array command to do this. It just did it for me quickly. Now you can also do some of this stuff with more complex patterns as long as it tessellates somehow. So let's look at another drawing really quickly here that has a more complex pattern. Let's bring up this illustrative plan. It has a lot of paving area in it, so it does take a second to calculate those. Let's turn off this viewport here. Just waiting to load. There we go. Let's go to single viewport to make this easier to see. So around this pool deck we have a bit of a more complex pattern. So there's two sizes of block here. If I click on it, just double click on it to see the pattern. It's called Dutch. This one I created based on another manufacturer's specification. But basically you just have to find the repeating pattern. This one, the row offset would be, here, let's draw a polyline. Would be something like that. Actually, these two objects, let's go ahead and sketch this out real quick. So we have one unit like that, and we have another unit that's roughly like this. And it tiles in a diagonal, similar to this. So we want to define the row offset a little bit differently because our offset is at an angle. So that's the only difference, is when you're doing this pattern setup. Here we go to Pattern Manager, sorry, wrong module. Pattern Manager. We go to Pattern, we go New, we select our objects. It's these two. And again, this isn't an exact tessellation, this is just an approximation. So our offset is like that. And then the next row is up there. Okay, and that's a general practice. So the trick is finding that tessellation, that repeating pattern, the direction that it goes. So it can be a little finicky, but once you have some standards set up, it's very helpful. And we'll do another webinar that gets more in depth about establishing those patterns and how to build out your own library, your own tool palette using some AutoCAD tools mixed with some Keyscape tools. So I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of what you can do with paving, how to use it to quantify simple surfaces like asphalt or concrete, or even crushed rock or decomposed granite areas, or even as simple as pervious versus impervious cover, and then how you can dial down to specific brick patterns without having to lay things out manually by hand using hatches or with the array command. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll be on at the same time next Wednesday, and then I will be posting this to YouTube today shortly. Thanks.